In conversation with James Metz. Born in August 1958 in Cincinnati, Ohio, grew up in Windsor Hills, California, loves bird, plant, the ocean, skiing, whitewater rafting, bicycling, pickleballs, golf, skydiving, traveling, and intellectual conversation. James retired from employment, currently spending time relaxing, enjoying life, and spreading the message in Planet Storyland. And on today's episode of our interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today James Met with Cindy Breck co-hosting me in the conversation. Welcome on the show, James. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Peter. Thank you very much. And hello, Cindy.
It's nice to meet you. Seriously, James, it is.
Thank you both.
Absolutely. It's lovely we are all here to sit down and have this virtual conversation with you all over the internet space, all over across country and nation. So this is quite exciting, really. Thank you for coming on. So James, I need to first say that I love the sound of your book, Planet Storyland, which reached to me to be quite amazing, quite fun, quite beautiful, and quite awesome on Amazon. And I would like you to tell us how you came about writing a book as such as this, how you came about, penning it down when you realized actually that you needed to write a book, you needed to tell a story, and what inspired you, if you can run us through the background, the making, the foundation of the start of this book, that would be great.
Okay. Well, then I'd have to go back a little ways.
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, when I was a kid, I used to question a lot of things that were going on around me, like
Mm,
my parents' rules, other parents' rules, um, the things that were taking place in school. It was nothing bad. It just seemed like, life should have been a lot more fun and easy and simple.
mm,
And so I wondered how things could be better um, for a very, very long time. It wasn't until maybe decades later that I had a question that I thought was rather important. And
mm,
the question, it came to me one evening when I was at home. And I was probably about 55 at that time.
mm.
And the question was about how someone from someplace else might look at how we live here on Earth. And the specific question is what would a kid think about how we live on Earth? And the reason why it was from the perspective of a kid is because kids have a tendency to ask a lot of questions, for one.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they're not very familiar with history, culture, tradition,
Mm,
and then the common phrase, it's because I said so, you know.
Mhm.
mm.
The kid's perspective being that he is from another planet. Let's say you meet somebody from a foreign country and you hear how they speak.
Yeah.
The sound of their voice is so much different than where you're from. And
Yeah.
you have a tendency to give them more attention just because an attraction sort of deal.
Yeah.
When if I hear somebody from Europe speaking, just the way they pronounce their words, or I hear someone from, let's say, Russia using our words, it just something attractive about their personality and the sound of their voice. So
Yeah.
um, Planet Storyland is just a perspective of a kid from another planet looking at us.
Wow.
Kind of an interesting take on that. I would, that's not something you would think of when you're thinking about writing a story and stuff like that for your protagonist to be a kid and then asking
Mm.
that question and then writing about it. So that's definitely kind of deep when you're doing that. Okay, so when you were doing this, what kind of themes are you looking at for the subjects? If somebody's picking up this book, and what inspired you to pick the title?
Oh, now that's cute. Okay, so the theme is rather different. The main theme really stems from the main character's name.
Mm,
And this kid from the planet Gliese, his name is Quentin Augustine. And the reason why his name is Quentin Augustine is because, see, his initials are Q and A.
mm,
And when you think of Q&A, that's question and answer, right?
yeah.
So throughout the book, there's a lot of questions and answering going on. And the dialogue is mainly between him and his father.
Okay.
Mm,
So I guess you could say that one of the themes revolves around questions. If that is not enough, I'm sure we can get into it a little bit more later, but the title of the book was even easier. That is so easy because, see, there's 7.5 billion people on the earth, somewhere around there. You would actually know that there's 7.5 billion stories at least being told every day.
yeah.
Imagine that. Besides from the books, besides from the movies, besides from the internet, besides from the radio, besides from the
Hmm.
magazines, 7.5 billion stories told every day. So it was kind of easy to come up with the title Planet Storyland.
Oh, that is so mathematical in nature. I love
Yes.
that. It is so beautiful. That's a lovely calculation you did there.
That definitely is intriguing. So we're a planet made up of Storyland. Yes.
Well, really, when you think about it, every day, no matter what we look at,
Mm,
whether it be picking up a cereal box or um, removing the coffee from the cabinet, there's a story behind those particular items.
mm,
And anything that you've bought, it was the way it looked, or it has these features such as a computer readout, on your refrigerator.
yeah,
The car that you drive, when you're driving down the street, you see signs, billboards, they're telling you a story.
yeah,
Um, it's just everywhere. No
yeah.
matter where we go, we're being told something, and it's no wonder that there's a lot of confusion these days because how can you comprehend all that? I mean, I know we have a brain, but
Mm,
that's a lot to shove into a brain in
Yeah.
just
yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
That's quite amazing as well. And even from what you said, I wanted to add this as well. Even we as human, all our day-to-day life activities, there's a story behind everything. By the time we wake up in the morning and go to bed at night, there's a story in every day of our life. There's a story of what I did today, a story of what I went to today, a story of what I did yesterday, a story of what I'm going to do tomorrow. Every life is a story and a journey on itself from one phase to another. So that's a beautiful one. That's why I said
Yeah.
it's quite mathematical in nature.
And, think about it. Later on, Peter, you're going to talk to somebody or tell them a story about maybe this interview.
Yeah, you know.
And you too, Cindy. I mean, think about it. We're going to pass that
I do.
information on about our experience.
Yeah, I do. I talk to my husband about this
Yeah.
exchange of conversations that we have and stuff like that. I mean, it's how do you say it's another experience that I draw on from,
Mm,
even though we're in this room and
yeah.
you guys are in Texas and Peter's in England, we're here for this moment. And it's just kind of a
Uh,
story moment. I love the title that you've got there because it's kind of like makes you think everybody's life is a story. Or
yeah.
you could even say a planet storyline too. So, I mean, that's definitely a sweet concept too that you've got there, James. I like that a lot.
Mm,
Thank you. It was rather a complicated concept, mainly because, see, the question, what would a kid think about the way we live? Um, I thought it was simple. I really thought it was just a very simple question that would require a simple answer. But I was so very wrong. And see,
long.
there was no intention to turn this into a book. It
Mm,
turned into a book because of the amount of years that it took me to finish this, which took a
mm,
little over 7. The simplicity part of the question was really just the question itself. It's only just several words. But to try and honestly look at the way we live from the perspective of an outsider, it became rather challenging. And I was always working with the sentences and the paragraphs, and kind of frustrating, but it was kind of fun because I had never done this before. It was almost like putting together a puzzle, you
Yeah.
know? And it seemed like a simple puzzle, but then it just seemed to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And each time I would read it back to myself or have the computer read it to me, or I'd have someone read some of it, I would find that something wasn't right. That there was a hole here that needed to be filled, or maybe the sentence shouldn't have been there. It should have been back here or more forward or something like that. So it was quite challenging, but it was fun because I was determined to finish it, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I said is that if I couldn't do this, then I was going to give up writing and just be an employee. I mean, that was the bottom line. But I also wanted to prove to myself that I knew what I was talking about. Because in the end, it had to make sense. It had to flow in such a way that it was very simple, no big words or anything like that. Just a simple, everyday life type of way that we live kind of story.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a father, a son, a mother, and a daughter. So it's a family. Quentin, like myself, he
Yeah.
goes to the library very often and he comes across this book. This
Mm.
book is dark blue. It has a gold border. It has a picture of a planet on it, and
Mm.
of planet Earth on it, and it has the word Earthlings in big bold letters, right?
Mm.
And so he looks at this book and he's like, wow, this looks kind of interesting. And he opens it to the first page. He looks at it, and at the very start, it says, they have a lot of questions. I'm just going to have to read that part because
That's
to
even
me,
better. That's even better. We get a taste, a flavor of what you've got.
Right?
Right,
That'll be
Peter?
fun. Absolutely. That'll be fun,
okay.
really.
It says each and every one of them has a lot of questions, but they do not look for the answers. Instead, they place their confidence in the words of the few and watch the rise and fall of their civilizations like the others do. He knows that just being a kid, he has a lot of questions just on his own planet about, the way things
Mm.
are and the things that he sees, things that he'd like to do. But the very fact that on this planet, people have a lot of questions and they're not interested in honestly searching for the answers.
Right.
They'd rather somebody else tell them. And
Mm.
so they listen to the words of the few people, the few leaders that are around the world to tell them what to do. And so when their economy falls or their civilization falls,
Yeah.
it's not the fault of the leaders, it's the fault of the general populace
Mm.
not participating in the building of their civilization. They have a lot of questions, but instead of them answering them, they rely
Mm.
upon the leaders to give them the answers.
So in your story, they've become kind of complacent.
You're here on Earth. I'm here on Earth. What's it like here?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to come back to because, some people are complacent all over the world in certain
Yes.
countries. And unless we take that time to quote, ask questions
Mm.
and and seek to understand, we will just follow the few. I mean, you have to and basically be like Quentin and try to research. Basically, that's what I'm
Absolutely.
understanding your character is doing, correct?
He's doing that regarding the life here.
Hmm.
See, he wants to come here, and his father and his mother is completely against it. She says
Mm.
it's dangerous because on Earth, all they're doing is conducting business. So she's against the idea. His father decides to have a conversation with him to make sure that he understands what the risk of going down there
Mm.
is. And so they're going through this methodical kind of questioning and answering to make sure that Quentin is clear about what he read and understands how the people on Earth live.
Oh,
You
wow.
just realized you gave birth to a whole set of new questions.
What's that, Cindy?
Maybe you should go
Well,
ahead
I
and
want to
ask
know what
Cindy.
Quentin looks like, how he would assimilate to Earth because we're quote the Earthlings, and so it just kind of like spirals into more questions. I love fantasy, and I do like elements of sci-fi, so this is like right up my alley.
Okay,
Mm.
well, see, the other part is that when Quentin was looking at the book in the library, he was flipping through the pages because there were pictures. The Earthlings looked just like him. That's what shocked him even more because he didn't
Wow.
understand why are these people living in such suspense. They're just like us, but we live different.
Yeah.
We appreciate life. We appreciate each other. We're
Mhm.
just here having fun because to him, to Quentin, the planet that he lives on, it's a playground and a laboratory.
Mm.
That's their culture. So they're
Wow.
all into play and creating. If you really think about all the amazing things that we have on Earth, there's there's still new things to come. One of the things that I learned about questions is that they're a guide. Take for instance a person that the guy that invented the cotton gin.
Mm.
He knew what he wanted to happen, but he had to figure out how to do this.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just a thing that he thought. He had to write some of this stuff down and try it this way and try and make it this way. And there were a lot of failures, but eventually, by following his questions, because the questions are the things the as he's working on a project, they get more specific and it gives him a clear vision so that he can have success and finally create the cotton gin. So
Mm.
Mhm.
everybody has unique questions, but they just don't know that their questions are a guide for them in this life. It's almost like a treasure map that you have, and you're looking at it and you see X is over there. That's where the buried treasure is. And then there's
Mm.
all these clues where your questions are your clues. They lead you to
Your
where
destination.
your destination
Mm.
actually ends and where the abundance of your life flourishes. But you
Mm.
Mhm.
have to follow your questions. It's not my questions for this person or your questions for the other person. It's their questions. They have to honor their questions and
Yeah.
Mm.
they will guide them. And that's the thing that's so amazing is that they're magic. Like they can actually make something appear or happen. Or
Yeah.
we look at questions like problem solving or in that way, not like it's fun. And really, questions are like a treasure map. And if you
Mm.
look at it that way, all you're doing is just trying to follow
Mhm.
the clues. And if you follow your clues, you'll get
Mm.
to where you want to go. And so that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why there's a lot of stuff about question and answering in the book.
Wow.
But it does talk about some of the things that we do here.
Mhm.
That's for certain.
So I told you that I like the science fiction aspect of things, but you've got real life lessons in this. I mean,
Mm.
it sounds like even just your explanation of this with this young protagonist and stuff, there's some real life lessons that and messages it sounds like that could be conveyed in this. How did you find the right balance between, science fiction and mixing the science fiction aspect and the real life lessons? I'm just curious how the makeup of your story world came about and those two aspects were put in there.
I saw that question that you
I'm
got.
serious. It is a good question.
Right. Well, yes, it's a good question. A very good question. Actually, there wasn't an attempt at any sort of balance of the story. When I first started to write Planet Storyland, the very first night, I thought about the question. I put a pad and pen right next on my nightstand and lay down and closed my eyes. And I watched it play
Yep.
out for,
Wow.
let's say, 15 minutes. And then I woke up, I sat up, and then I started writing down what it was that I remembered. The next day, I did the same thing. That went on for about 30 days until I had the
Wow.
rough
Mm-hmm,
draft.
mm-hmm,
I could kind of see Quentin, his father, his mother, his sister, the library.
Mm,
I could see that whole dynamic
mm,
um, taking place. And so the only other thing that was needed is to explain the book Earthlings.
mm,
And there was a man named Randolph Reed Stewart who had made this trip to Earth, who wrote the book
mm,
Earthlings.
mm-hmm.
And there was a desire by Quentin to know a little bit more
mm,
about the planet Earth and any other books that may be in the libraries there that could help him fulfill his curiosity. But there wasn't. And so he got on a computer and he looked up the biography of Randolph Reed Stewart, which told a little something about
mm,
how Randolph Reed Stewart began, where, you know, he enjoyed looking at the stars at night. And his parents got him a telescope and a sky chart. And then they started taking him to the observatory. And
mm,
he was excited about looking through their giant telescope. And so he wanted to learn more about the outer space. And so he asked them if they had any books in their library. And they said, yeah. So his question was, are there people living on another planet? And so that was his quest,
mm,
which is to not only learn as much as he could, but also see if there was a way that they could build a space shuttle so that they could explore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it talks about Randolph Reed Stewart's history. Other than that, some of the issues that everybody thinks about just about every day, because we just about deal with those things every day we get up. It's really kind of hard to
you licked it.
explain it without telling it all, and I don't want to tell it
Mm,
all because
No, and
yeah,
we
yeah.
respect no spoilers. We want people to read your book.
yes, it's funny that you would say that, Cindy, because see, at the very end, near the very end, Quentin says, because he intends on coming to Earth, and he
Mm,
says, read the book Planet Storyland, because actually Quentin wrote the book Planet Storyland.
mm,
Okay.
And he says that he would bring it to Earth and tell them, read Planet Storyland, and then take out a pen and paper and let your questions be your guide.
okay. That's a deep one there. Deep. Yeah, that's a deep one there.
Yeah, see, after having this discussion with his father, and his father had told him, he's like, you know, if you go down there and you start trying to tell the Earthlings how to live, you're not going to get the response that you think.
Mm,
They're going to talk to you in such a way that it's probably going to hurt your feelings. And so just think about this. There's billions of them, and then there's one of you. You know,
mm,
it's like the math doesn't add up, and you don't have that kind of time. But
yeah.
you know, when we're kids, we have a tendency to believe that we know better, in spite of what anybody may tell us, because we just have our mind made up. And
Yeah.
he had his mind made up that he was going to make it to Earth. So he sat down in his room and he decided to write out what he and his father talked about. And then in the end, he came up with the name Planet Storyland because he knew that there were over 7 billion people on Earth, and that would be the
Mm.
perfect title for them.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's quite a lot, really. I must say that, first of all, I love your extensive answer to these questions. I've been enjoying your answer so far, and it sounds to me quite amazing and quite wholesome. And I really do wish like we have enough time to delve much deeply into everything we're here to discover. But I'd like to ask you, I would love to ask you this particular one because the concept of storytelling seemed very central to the book. I wanted to ask you, what role do you think stories play in a child's development? That's one of the impressive things I think I love you to provide an answer to. The sort of role that you think stories play in a child's development. And also, did you base any characters or experiences in the book on real people, moment from your life, or it's just mere complete fictitious imagination from your head? I'm just curious, you know.
Huh. Stories. Wow. Uh,
That's a
my
whopper.
mother,
That's a good one, Peter.
my mother read a lot of stories to me when I was
Mm,
younger, and so um, I also remember her taking me to the library, which I was extremely excited. I
mm,
remember us walking up the steps so that I could get my first library card. And
mm,
when I walked into that place and saw those books, that was really like, wow, look
mm,
at this. I mean, where do I start? From what I've been able to tell, whenever somebody tells me a story, the first thing I start doing is imagining. I can almost see it play out in my head.
mm.
And then after a little while, then I start analyzing it like, could this be true? Could that be possible? That sort of deal. So I think in a lot of ways, stories inspire imagination. Hearing how other people tell stories is a reference point of how to tell my own story
Mm.
or other stories that I may come up with,
Mhm.
to share with people. So I do believe it does tend to inspire a person's use of their imagination when it
Yeah.
comes down to telling a story. And the part about the characters, well, Quentin was modeled after me,
Mm.
no doubt.
Wow.
Um,
I figured that one out.
Really? How did
Oh,
you, Cindy?
at the beginning when he was opening up and he was talking about things and stuff like that, I mean, that was kind of obvious. He had a little bit too personal of an experience or was
Really?
able to relate too well to it.
Well, I never saw that really.
Are you
I was
serious?
I was thinking it's total fictitious imagination.
Well,
I never
it's
saw that.
fictitious, but I mean, the best stories are those written when you can relate to it. And I was just like, I wonder if his mom's got some experience back here. If he was that child that asked all the questions, and then he's write a character that is Q and A, Quentin, and his last name. I'm like, this has got to have some reference to him growing up.
Reference. Oh my
Yes, yes,
goodness.
yes. So,
well, that is true. So, yes, Quentin was modeled after me.
yes.
Wow.
Um, and his sister, Carmen, was modeled after my sister. And Carmen, she's always like antagonizing Quentin in a playful way.
Hmm.
And my sister did that when I was a kid. She loved teasing me about
Mm.
anything that I said that she thought is just like, let me pick at Sherwood about this.
Yeah.
And so I had to write Carmen in because I thought that would be a nice twist to the family makeup
Yeah,
because,
the chemistry of how all four of the protagonists are involved there. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah, yeah. So Carmen is my sister Camille, and Quentin is James Sherwood Metz.
Oh, I got more questions popping in my head. I better be quiet.
Okay, Cindy.
I'm
Goodness.
dying to ask this one. How did your sister feel about you writing her into your story?
I never told her.
You
Well, I
didn't.
think that's a very
No.
good answer. Did she read the book? I'm not quite sure.
She's read some of it. The sad part is that my sister passed away about 3 years ago.
Oh.
Oh, I'm
Mm.
sorry to hear that.
And so at the time that I finished writing the book was the time that she was sick.
Mm.
And
Oh.
so she was only able to read some of it.
Oh.
Um,
That's so sad.
yeah, but I have a lot of pictures of me and my sister when we were younger.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And my brother and I, we often laugh about, you know, Camille because
Mhm.
Camille, she had a way of looking at things and finding it funny, and so we often laugh when we're talking about her. It's never really. The only sad part is that we wish she was here because we play pickleball. I'll be in
Mm,
Los Angeles on Thursday, next Thursday.
mm,
My daughter's graduating. She's graduating from UCLA with a master's, and my mother's birthday is also next week, and so that's why I'm going down there to celebrate. But my brother and I, we will be playing pickleball, and if my sister
mm.
Camille was here, she would be playing with us, and we'll go to the beach, and she would have gone to the beach with us as well. But whenever we talk about her, it's never anything sad. It's always, Camille would have said this, and because
Yeah.
we just see that look on her face, and then she starts laughing. You know.
You know, the beautiful thing is you wrote about her in your story and you brought more life to her that's just
Mm.
beyond the memories.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, Sydney, that's cute. Don't make me start, you know, welling up now.
But it's the truth, isn't it? I mean, seriously, it's the truth.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he
It's
lives on in the pages of your story.
Yeah.
yeah, that is wow. Okay, that's
But I'm not the
Which
only
I
you're gonna have
geek
think,
me thinking about
today.
this all day.
yeah, which I think it's gonna be very historical even. Because
Yeah,
books tends to live forever, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I wanted to add when I was asked about the theme in the book.
Yes.
Um, when you look at the word question, um, especially if you look in the dictionary, they'll show you how you're supposed to pronounce it. And they spell it Queus and then Tion.
Correct.
All right. But see, I don't look at the word like that. The way I look at the word, I'm going to spell it for you: Queus, then I, and then On.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes what?
Yuhan.
Question. I was going to say something different. So,
Quest
yes.
I and then On.
Quest
Quest
I on.
I on.
Yes.
Quest
Mm.
I on.
I
That's
already knew
lovely.
the quest part. I didn't get the I and the on until you just kind of
Mm.
spelled it
Spell
out.
it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I looked at it that way, then the word question made so much more sense to me
Yeah.
because that's what questions are. They are a quest to find the answer. And it
Mm-hmm.
is your quest, a personal quest.
Mm-hmm.
If the
Mm.
teacher asks you a question, you're on a quest to find the answer.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
You know what? That's the title, the caption you got to put on your interview here, Peter. Quest I on.
Sihon.
Yes, yes, seriously, seriously. This is just like really, really cool. Is there any more message that you would like to share with P English literature about like the heart of the message that you have with Planet Storyland, or anything that you'd like to share?
There's a question that I often ask people when I'm presenting my book to them. And the question is there's a 7 letter word, and this one word describes how we transfer the landscapes of the earth from natural to cities. And so I want the readers to understand that magic, or the way that we transfer our present lifestyle to another one, would actually require that we use writing. And writing consists of a number of things. It's not just words on a page. Writing consists of punctuation marks, it consists of numbers,
Yeah.
0 through 9. It consists of the alphabet, which is 26 letters. Then there's a numerous mathematical symbols. There
Mm.
are musical symbols, and there are drafting symbols. And then
Mm.
there's the periodic table.
Hmm.
So, with those writing symbols, we are able to take a planet like Earth and create a city, automobiles, boats, airplanes, rockets, space station. All of these
Mm.
things came out of the earth. And the way they came out of the earth is with writing. The instruments that are used in music that came out of the earth. You know, sometimes when you look at the planets that they say that are out there that we can't really see with our own eyes, like the way we
Yeah.
see the planet Earth, there are things that can come out of those planets too. But so far as we know, no place looks like Earth does. But to the ordinary person, to the everyday person, they don't really look at Earth as though, wow, all these amazing things came out of the Earth, you know, that you can move with your hand. You
Mm.
did not know that by that clump of dirt that you're moving and the earth that you're digging into, that instruments and tractors and rockets and
Mm.
boats and
I
jet
love
skis and
it.
all this stuff came out of that ground
Mm.
that we walk on every day. And we're just oblivious to the whole thing. We want somebody to tell us what to do, but we have the questions, and all we have to do is follow our questions that'll lead to that X that marks the spot. And maybe, just maybe, you'll come up with some new creation. But you
Mm.
have to make use of writing because that's our magic. Without that, none of this stuff that we see right now,
Mm.
even our clothing, we would go naked if writing and all its benefits disappeared right now. We would hit
Mm.
the ground. You get what I'm saying? Whatever you're sitting on, you'd hit the floor. That floor
Well,
would
writing,
disappear, you'd hit the earth.
yeah,
Mm.
writing is in essence knowledge.
Mm.
Writing is that transformative, it is what makes your imagination, which is invisible, a reality. It makes
Hmm.
Mm.
the invisible visible.
Hmm.
So you think of something, and then you take a pen and paper and you start
It's a
trying to draw
reality.
it, and you write out the steps and everything, and you keep working on it until I got it,
It
and
is
then you
done.
go build it.
Mm.
That's that's what this is about. This is just to let people know, and it's mainly for students and their
Mm.
parents and teachers and librarians, to let them know that you actually have the power. Those tools, those writing tools, you can create anything out of it. So you don't necessarily have to go get a job, but you can get a job to, like, sustain you in the meantime while you're working on
Your book.
or finding your passion,
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
you're following your questions that are guiding you, like clues to that buried treasure that you know, that
Definitely.
lifestyle that you always wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Mm. This is such an amazing one, really. It's such a pulling, such a lovely, and I can go on and on and on and on and on with it, really. This is such an amazing conversation, quite awesome and quite great. And I'd like you to tell us, just in case we have some viewers who are watching, I would love to get a copy of your book. On what platform is it available on for purchase?
It's on all the platforms that supply books, such as Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Goodreads. And then there's my personal webpage, which is planetstoryland.com.
And
Could you
I
show
let,
us a picture of your book?
yeah, please do.
Yes, the
Oh,
cover.
Absolutely. A bit
Yeah.
up so we can see properly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
you can
Oh,
see
Yeah.
it.
there's the
Yeah.
library and the kid walking down the aisle. Yes.
Oh, so you do see it clearly.
Yeah.
Well, we
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
seen it so
I wouldn't
far.
josh you. I wouldn't josh you. Yes.
Yeah.
Josh, I've never
Yeah.
heard that before.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's 118 pages, 106 pages, and so it's very short. It's very simple. It's not a hard read, and most people, when they read it, they finish it like within like an hour and a half.
That's great.
And you know, one of the things that I find really surprising is that nobody has told me that they do not like it, and nobody has told me that they don't understand. They may not get it the way I get it because, you know, I wrote it, you know, that sort of deal. But
Mm.
they say that they like it, and that's the part that keeps me going, because my whole deal is that I'm not going to write another book until I make this national and international. You
Absolutely.
know, one of the things that I find surprising, and I get these stories from Facebook a lot of times, that there are kids all around the world creating such amazing things. There is a guy, I believe, that's in Africa that created a car that doesn't need any external energy once it starts, because the energy is within the car itself.
Okay.
There is a kid, I believe is in Africa, that he created windmills to distribute electricity in his neighborhood. And he just got this from stuff that was laying around that was junk, but he put it together. And so, even though these are like small examples of people, well, the car is a big deal, but small example of what we're capable of. The brain is just amazing. All we have to do is just get it to help us find these answers that we're looking for. We're just amazing. I'm telling you, we're just amazing. Our brain, our body structure, we're able to do so many
Right.
things. Gymnastics, build. Can you imagine building a space station? Can you imagine being a part of that?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I mean,
exciting.
this is just absolutely amazing. And you know, there's one thing that I do want to see. I definitely just want to see it up close, not take off, but I want to see what a rocket actually looks like. Because from what I understand, those things are like huge. They're like 360 feet tall, which means that thing is way up there. You can't see the tip. And then they're like 25 feet wide, which would take you a moment to walk around. Like 90% of it is fuel. So there is so much weight that this rocket is made of, that the power that is necessary to resist gravity and take off into the sky
It's
is just,
it's it's
I would just like to see
unimaginable.
that, because
Mm.
the engineering that went into that. I used to be an aircraft, and when you look at the different parts of the plane and all the tubes and wires that are running through it, it makes you wonder, how did they figure this all out? But it's just genius. It's just genius. Yes, it is. And then you have to have somebody put it together. You get what
I
I'm
never
saying? And then test it.
I never knew you had that question too. Sometimes I'm like, how come this thing did not fall down from the sky?
Right.
I'm
What
Yes.
keeps it going for that long?
Yeah, Peter, I'm
That
really
is
wondering
true.
how James as a child, and how his mother felt about him. You had to have given your mom a run for her money
Oh,
with
and you
all
know
the
something? Now that's
questions. It
funny.
had to have
That
been
brings up
filled with
another,
beautiful.
Cindy,
Oh
that
my
brings up a
goodness.
story. It's a very short story. Okay, so I'm
Oh
probably around
goodness.
10, and I come running into the kitchen and I say, "Hey, mom." And I asked her something, and she says, "You must be bored." And I looked at her like, "Huh?" And I said, "Mom, all I want to know is blah blah blah." She says, "No, you're bored." And I said, "No, no, really, honestly, I just want to know." She says, "You're bored. What I want you to do is help me cook dinner. Go over there and get that sack of potatoes in a bag and a potato peeler and peel those to help me get dinner ready." And I thought,
Okay.
last time I'm asking her another question, because if this is how it's going to turn out. But that's what she did to me one day. She
Wow.
shut me down with my questions and had me help her make dinner, which I don't mind helping my mother make dinner, because, you know, it's something new, learn how to cook. But
Yeah.
at that moment, that was not the time. That
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
not the time. But when I was a kid, I had fed birds. I had 174 birds feeding in the backyard at one time.
Mm.
I even had a wild bird that used to come and hang out with me on the deck, and he'd just sit there and wait. And then he'd just sit there. I don't know why, but he'd just sit there, and then I give him cashews, and he'd go and take off and come back later on. I had 100 potted plants.
Mm.
That was my goal, to get 100 potted plants, because I love plants. And I did collect rocks, but there wasn't that many in my neighborhood. Rocks are just amazing in themselves, but there's just a lot of amazing things. You know, there's even today, I'm just very, very excited to just talk to people about
Mm.
how amazing life is, because see, there's nothing better than being alive. There is
Mm.
nothing better than being alive. And being human is even more amazing because we have a brain and we have the body structure and we have all the resources that we need to
Mm.
do anything that we want. All we have to do is answer our questions
Yeah.
and we'll get there.
Well, I think you're going to inspire a lot of P English literature
Yeah.
listeners to check this story out, and your energy and your excitement alone,
Even excited myself.
I, yeah, could spill out and over into your story and stuff like that. You definitely have percolated some thoughts in my head, which is evident. So
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing everything on P English literature.
I left a link in the discussion part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of James Smith's book directly on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, and his website, and also another platform. I also left a link to his social media pages for possible followings. So I want to say once again, thank you, James, for coming up to talk about Planet Storyland. This is really amazing, quite awesome, beautiful, and quite amazing. Thank you very much for coming on.
I'm going to go home and go Question.
Text I
Quest
Han.
I on. Thank you very, very, very
This
much.
was
We
Cindy and
appreciate
Peter,
you.
thank you both very much.